I carried my camera a couple of times on bike rides, and there was one in Chamonix. I was riding something one autumn. There was a temperature inversion, like big cloud base in the valley, and you could climb up a couple of 100 meters up onto this trail, and it just got above the cloud, and I had my little Contax G2 in the camera, shooting black and white film in there, and I took a picture of myself riding another one of these, put it on a rock, self-timer, count to 10 seconds while you ride off into this mist. And I ended up getting home, and I had a little dark room set up in my bathroom, shut the door, developed this film, printed it there and then, and came out like, oh, I like let out a little bit of man-wee. It really worked. It was brilliant. I ended up sending that to Bike magazine in America. That year won Photo of the Year, 2003. And that made me think, you know what? I kind of need to take some bike photography a bit more seriously. We've got some sun, all thrown in, perfect ingredient. My hands are freezing, my toes are freezing, but sell those shots, make enough money, I can buy new feet or some dry socks. In the early 90s, taking a camera away, and I'd jump on a plane and I'd just go and do some trips with my bike, fly to an island like Mallorca and shoot a story, which is mostly me putting my camera, really rubbish little camera as well, on a rock, putting on self-timer and then riding or track standing for like 10 seconds until you heard the click of the camera. And anyway, this got me a little bit noticed in the magazines in terms of people had run my stories, and at least it would pay for my holiday. And then I thought, you know what? I really want to make myself known as a photographer properly. So I then went to Chamonix for a winter and hooked up and lived with a couple of professional snowboarders and went out shooting every single day, and it just put me on the map. And I started working a lot with European snowboard magazines and then into Transworld snowboarding in America. Shot snowboarding, like proper backcountry stuff for 20 years, camping out in the Arctic, polar bear footprints around the camp, all this crazy stuff. I learned a lot about how to capture things, how to make things work. But I also got scared, which is something that has forced me away from the snow stuff quite a lot. And the bike thing, I wanted to try and keep away from shooting bikes. Bikes were my way of escaping work. They were my freedom. They were just like, go and ride your bike, clear your head, do all that stuff, all that troublesome stuff that goes in your head when you're 20-something years old, you know, and young, and you don't know anything about anything. And so Chamonix has been a great developer for me in terms of riding. Nowadays, it's a blast. The stuff we used to be like, all the way down in little skimpy Lycra shorts and all that has been replaced by these like 6-inch travel bikes. It's just a blast. A drop a post, slam it down, bang, whee, whee, up there, whee, up there. Well, that's what it feels like. If you're right behind me, it probably doesn't look like that. It still probably looks like, So from then on, I was starting to build on the bike stuff. Obviously been riding for 30 years, but photographing it, I started to build and build and build. And over the years, the snowboard stuff came down and the bike stuff went up. It's hard getting rid of bikes. I know people have got twice as many, but I've always had jobs that don't pay very well. Photography's not changed that much. And having to sell bikes to upgrade to the next one, but it's nice clinging on to a few relics. You just see a bike and think, 30 euros, second hand, that's beautiful. Oh look, there's an e-bike, there's an electric bike wheel here. Another project waiting to happen. Door's doing, it's guarding my boxes of kit. We'll open the door and have a look. Right, height right. The height right. Good old Joe Breeze. That's what we have to thank for today's dropper post and making our riding ultimately 1,000,000 times more fun. That was probably the position I finished in as well, out of about 1,200. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Every time I drive back out to the Alps, I try and load my van up with Marmite, tea bags, and old speckled hen. Key ingredients for any adventurer. Yeah. This one, a turbo trainer bike for the winter months, is Angie's bike. This is the one she rode around Argentina with me for a year in '96.
Has the addition of Dan in your life been a blessing or a curse?
No, it's a blessing. I'd say a blessing with a little bit of curse. He is 1 in 1,000,000, and he is one of those people that I admire and love to bits, but at the same time I can get so mad with him. He's such a perfectionist and he works so hard at what he does, but it's almost like he becomes too obsessed. Yeah, he can lose reality. In the early days, before he started shooting with pro riders, I was that person. I had to ride this bike, and of course it'd be right. No, when you come down, get your elbows out and higher gear, and you got to look like it's really hard, but don't puff your face out and don't do this. I was like, God, how am I supposed to do this and ride this fast, or come around the corner, but don't look at me and don't do that. Yeah, and I used to think, God, there must be someone better than me then. But I did have a front cover on bike, so I think that's quite an achievement from our Argentina trip. I am only about that big in it.
Making the bike thing work for me has been phenomenal. Right? It's taken me to so many places. Just the excuse to travel. The bike breaks down barriers. That's my main thing. Like riding through a village in Ethiopia and just being chased by kids who are laughing and giggling and just pushing on your bikes is phenomenal. And they'll get on your bike and they'll pull better wheelers than I could ever dream of doing. You don't rock up in a Jeep like posh tourists and get labelled as money pits. You just turn up on a bike, you've got there on your own, you've used your legs to get in, and there's kind of some universal bond between you and whatever village you're rolling through. And it's just been phenomenal. It's just like the last sort of decade, it's taken me to so many places. Ethiopia, Afghanistan. We just came back from Lesotho and back to Chile, a couple of trips to India, 2 or 3 trips to Nepal. It takes you to places that have so many unknowns in them, and Afghanistan was like that. The carrying bikes over 5,000 meter passes in blizzards was ridiculous. There we are. That's the top of our first big pass. I'd like to say it was good fun, but that would be a big lie. Freezing our asses off in little shepherd's huts, meeting locals who really are just eking out a really basic living in these phenomenal wilderness, gives you respect for a lot of stuff that goes on in the world and stuff you just don't really see coming from a privileged background like we do. But it's had some tough moments, that's for sure. Well, there we are, just made it to Afghanistan, just come over the border from Tajikistan. Yeah, I think we're in good, safe hands. Can't really see too much of an issue, really. I do feel oddly safe for some strange reason. All around us are spiky, prickly, thorny bushes.
So filming, Milner?
Yeah, fuck yeah. You just can't nail it down. Can't nail it down in like a 2-minute interview. You couldn't nail it down in a book, I think. A book, now there's something I could work on. Yeah, look out for that. I can only just hope that it keeps going for me. I think it will. It's getting harder. Carrying bikes is never getting easier. But I'll keep it going. As long as me and the beard can propel me to the top of the mountain, that's for sure.